DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
All right. Well, on that note, hi, everybody, and thank you very much for taking some time. Monday evening, I can't believe it's here already.
It is.
Like, it goes fast. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. My weeks lately just seems like they're running all together, and it's Monday night again. But I'm glad because I get to hang out with you guys. And if you're noticing, it's John, myself, and we had a lovely lady that was with us last week. That's not with. No, she's not there.
No, she's not. But she will be right down.
She will be
there, right there. Yes,
there
in just a bit.
So Shani's going to be coming to join us a little bit later. She actually had an event tonight, which go her, and so she's like, I can't be there right at the time. Okay, all right. Well, we love her, so she's going to join us in a little bit. But in the meantime, tonight we are going to talk everybody's favorite topic: gear.
Going to dig into. Really to get some theories on or thoughts on gear to start out with, because there's a lot of you now that are watching the shows that are just kind of wanting to get into it and be ready to go for 2021. There's some of us who've been in this for quite a while. We've got our gear. We're happy with that. This isn't tonight's discussion. While you may be able to contribute to help someone else, you're probably not going to be learning about, the newest, entry-level type gear. We're going to talk a little bit about those types of things tonight, and some thoughts behind that is because today Reggie, which a lot of you know Reggie, he follows the shows and such. Reggie sent me a picture today from a store like Home Depot, but it wasn't Home Depot. This particular picture was of a DJ speaker, a Fisher brand DJ speaker. He said it was 1,800 watts. Take a guess at what they had for a price tag on that speaker.
$199.
$35. You're right.
Oh, wow.
1,800 watts, and it could have been a 12-inch, and it was the LED type where the cone glowed. But
okay.
there's just, in what it showed is that there's just such a range of pricing when it comes to speakers that can be construed as DJ speakers. Lights are the same way. We can go to Amazon. We can find lights from $10 for an LED fixture that'll change colors, all the way up to production things. There's just such a wide. It wasn't Walmart actually. It was a home, a very similar to Home Depot. It's more of a regional store up here. So I don't think most of you have it. But if you are from Minnesota and Wisconsin, you know what Menards is, and you would. That's where it was at. So. Yeah, it's just an interesting time with things like that out there. Usually, we've been talking kind of off and on about Sam's Club. Sam's Club carries the Ion stuff, and recently they've been carrying Ion 15-inch two-way cabinets. 2 years ago, they had a brand or a version of it, and it sounded terrible. The one I heard the other day that they had playing, it actually sounded pretty decent. It probably wouldn't, have the same capacity by any means of what I've got in there, but they've come a long way, and I don't know if the pricing has gone up, down, or sideways, but.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised also if, this is one of the things that I've often found is when you put a piece of sound gear in a store that has no idea what they're doing with it.
Yes.
Really. I mean, now, like when Walmart used to have like an electronics section, sometimes you'd have people that would like focus just on that. But anytime I've walked into Sam's Club, it's just kind of like, today you're in meats and tomorrow you're in electronics and the next day you're over in paper, like, and maybe next day you're doing cashier. Like that's the way it ends up going. And nothing against them, but they're not known for being specific and specialized in that way. So what often happens is the gear isn't anywhere set up the way it should.
Mm-hmm.
So it does sound like absolute garbage because nobody took the time to fine tune it the way they might. So the person walking by goes, "Oh, that sounds awesome. I'm going to get that." And maybe you had somebody else who did a little bit better, or the manufacturer said, hey, by the way, if you're going to use this on display, these are the buttons you need to push first.
And I think that'd be hugely helpful, because a couple of years ago, when I looked at the very first Ion one that I saw, I went to the back, and they might have had streaming radio or something. I don't remember what exactly they were putting through it, but every gain, every little knob was turned all the way. So I think 2 of them were EQ, like a high and a low, all the way, and then the gain was all the way, and so there was a hiss in it. Yet it wasn't all that loud. Yeah, you could hear it, probably 50 feet away in a semi-busy store, but it was like, yeah, it didn't sound good, and it didn't have much volume. But I think if I remember correctly, it was like $89 or something like that. It was under $100 for the cabinet. So you get what you get.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that you talked about so far, is the fact that there's such a wide gamut. It can be extremely overwhelming to somebody who's just getting into this. And especially if they don't have stores near them or as many near them, to be able to go, why would I spend this when I can get this, which seems like it's the same thing?
Mm-hmm. It's a DJ speaker,
$1,000 cheaper, and just kind of seeing that difference really would make a huge piece.
Yeah.
But there's Shani.
Guys,
You made it today.
sorry about coming late. Things got a little crazy here in Chicago. So
Yeah, that's excellent. Glad you could make it. So Shane, what we just were starting out with is Reggie shared a picture of a speaker, a kind of a DJ speaker, a DJ looking speaker that he saw at Menards. It's a 1,800 watt cabinet for $35, and we were just kind of talking a little bit about there's the gamut.
well, you do save big money at Menards.
You do save money, and then if you have the 11% off thing going on,
Right?
oh yeah. Buy 2.
I'm saying you save big money at Menards. I mean, that is their slogan.
I was going to say, do I have my Menards affiliate link somewhere? I don't have one. So there's a variety of, for those of you who are just getting started, there's a variety of different amounts of money you can spend to buy the different parts of gear. And Shani, one of the areas I really wanted you to kind of chime in, we'll come back to speakers a little bit, is controllers are like that. And you've gotten to spend some time when you've been with Denon and at the Newmark, and you've been at the shows. We can spend $50, $60, $70 on a controller, and we can spend $1,500 to $100 to $2,000. For people,
And we can spend $200, $300 too.
Exactly. There's just a gamut or a kind of a flow. When you have looked at these things, what kind of spots where when you've touched these, played with these a little bit, a sweet spot for someone who's kind of getting into this and expecting to kind of budget for a controller?
My whole thing with controllers is what you really need with them. Are you not using a separate mixer, and you're going to need to plug everything into your controller? So if you're going to do that, you're going to need more than a 2-channel controller. If you have a separate mixer, then you really can look at those smaller 2-channel controllers. So I like to always tell people, what are you using it for? What are you doing with it? Do you really need all the bells and whistles to start? Let's get you going with what you really need for the controller and go off of that, because you don't really have to spend $1,000, $1,500 for those controllers, even though you're like, well, that's the one I want. Yeah, but if you want to budget it out to get a whole sound system to start with, you might have to start with the smaller controllers, which nowadays, even the smaller controllers are so nice compared to the way they used to be. Some of those 2-channel and even 4-channel controllers have like everything on it that you need. So my whole thing is, do your research, compare to, what does this have? And you can look online everywhere, and it has all the specs of the controllers and everything on there. So you can say, okay, it has this for me. It has that for me. I want this. It has pictures of the front, the back. We didn't used to have all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like we didn't know like what the whole back of it looked like to say, okay, these are the inputs, this and that. Nowadays you have all of that. So my whole thing is, look at exactly what you think you need for the controller. Most beginning DJs, I say you don't really need that 4-channel controller if you don't really plan on using it to that capacity, unless again, you're plugging other things into it and you need to do other stuff. But even if you're having, a mic and things like that, you could just go pretty simple and just do a 2-channel controller. And there's some really nice ones out there from some of the companies that are under $500.
Yeah, and you mentioned the capacity to go from 2 to 4. I've got the big 4-channel controllers, the $1,000 plus versions. I was just trying to think of the last time. Granted, I haven't been DJing a lot, but even probably the last 10 shows, it's been a long time since I've actually used a 3rd channel. It's been
with me. I use a lot of the other channels when I have outside videographers that are coming in and they're showing like a montage for something, and they'll just kind of plug in my audio if I don't have a separate mixer with me, or I'll kind of plug something else into it myself and things like that. So exactly what you're saying, if you're not really using those 4 channels, you don't need to get that type of controller right away.
I think it's important to have, like, I have a 4-channel, and I'm kind of with you, John. I only really tend to use 2. 1 and 2. I'm not getting the fancy 4-deck mixing or anything like that. And so as a result, 2 is really all I need. I will use a 3rd one, but as long as I had a controller that had an auxiliary in of some sort, whether, where it was almost like a standalone control. Like back in the day, it felt like when I had a 19-inch mixer that my CD players were plugging into and everything else, I always had an auxiliary jack type of piece. And that would be the piece. So as long as I had something for that to run on, whether it was on a channel or whether it was just a separate knob somewhere, that would work for me. And I think for a lot of you, that's really going to be the place to begin. One, you're going to save. I mean, look at the controllers that are 4-channel versus 2-channel, where everything else for the most part is the same. You're instantly taking off usually a couple $100, right?
Oh yeah, you could get a nice two-channel controller for like $250. Nice, that even has bells and whistles, like that has like all of that. So you definitely can get a really good one, and lightweight and everything, portable. Just, I mean, all the things that you want to think about of what you want to have all your gear, you could definitely find that in those controllers.
And I think one of the things that, and in the chat room, Brian has mentioned he's got the CDJ 2000, these bigger mixers and such. If you're just starting out, and Jim Strohan just in the last show talked about that the guests, that the gear is cool, but it's cooler for us. The guests in many ways really don't care, that they would rather at most weddings type events. There's certainly some events where gear is important, but thereafter they want to hear the music they want to hear. They want to hear it in the way they want to hear it, and they want it to sound good. So
I like the 4-channel controllers that have the 2 USBs, because I do DJ with some like other people. So sometimes, like tonight, I actually walked into my event with just my backpack, and the DJ was already going, and I literally just opened up my laptop, plugged my USB, waited till it was my turn, saw which one he was on, went to the other channel, switched it over, and just started DJing. So but then again, that's not for a beginner.
Right. Exactly.
That definitely is not, a controller for a beginner, but that's, why I personally, someone's like, well, why do you always use 4 channels? Why do you always do this? And I'm like, because sometimes I do DJ with other DJs when I bring my gear or they bring their gear, and it's just so seamless to just jump on that instead of having to lug another controller, set it up, plug it in here. As people know, I'm very versatile. I can DJ on whatever equipment is there, even if I've never touched it before. But like, that's another good reason for 4 channels, but not for beginners. Beginners are like, well, I want that 4 channel. Well, you don't need that 4 channels.
Well, I think a lot of the beginners are not going to run into a situation where they're probably going to have that separate mixer. Right. So one of the things when we're talking about sound, you do want to make sure things are sounding good. And the one area that I would say a lot of your cheaper, and I'm not going to say less expensive, I'm going to say cheaper controllers gets into is mic inputs. that seems to be where some of them always seem to run into it. So, it's one of the things where a lot of times when you go and you play, if you go to a store and you play or whatever with the controller, they go, oh, I want to hear it. I want to hear what it sounds like. And you'll be playing music through it and you're like, oh, it sounds great. And then I've heard of people who are buying these controllers and they go home and they're getting ready for an event. They plug their this microphone that they bought in that's, average, not high quality, but average. And they go, man, that sounds like crap. Yeah, that's the thing that you want to make sure you're watching out for too. Take the time to plug a microphone into it and give a listen to that as well as the music going through it.
Agreed.
So, of course, you mentioned, Shani, that there's a variety of different levels, price and such. One of the things I found interesting in having some conversations with both the Pioneer and the Denon is that their best-selling controllers for 2020, and they have done sales, are Newmark's was the Party to Go, and I think it's Pioneer's was it WeDJ?
No,
WeGo?
that WeDJ is Newmark.
What's the
you're talking about that little one, the little Pioneer one?
Yeah, the
WeD. Yeah. Hold on, I know which one you're talking about.
Best Buy sells it, and Best Buy has sold more of those than you can shake a stick at.
Yeah, the WeGo
or something like that, but it's a little tiny. I think they're white.
WeGo 4 maybe.
WeGo 4. That one.
Yep, that would be it there.
Yeah.
Those are the best selling, and a lot of it is because you've got people who are getting into it, and those can do a lot. I mean, you look at the price of those; they're generally about $100, give or take. And if you have to, you can buy a separate mixer to give you some of those microphone inputs and things that you need. So there's ways to definitely get into it and not break the bank. Like my 8,000, the controller back there, I think $1,295 is somewhere in that ballpark. The 7,000 that I use all the time, I paid the last one I bought a B stock, and I think it was like $600 is what I paid for it. So
don't get excited, it's gone.
Yeah. Well, no, mine isn't. Mine is my B stock one's actually right up there.
No, it will be gone by the weekend, John. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but they're the big ones are out there and such, and they're cool. But for starting, you don't need to jump in there. So let's kind of graduate or slide over back to speakers. We talked about that there were some less expensive ones. If you're just starting out, and I think Day mentioned in the chat room that spending more starting out on speakers than probably investing and putting that money into a controller, I think proportionally wise, I think makes a lot of sense. That was good advice. How would a person attack sound, specifically speakers, when you're first starting out? And I want to get your opinions from both of you. So, Dan, how would you recommend doing it?
Find the one that gives you the most watts.
Nice.
I had to say that for Howie. Basically, it comes from sounding and hearing them. I think that's one of the biggest obstacles that so many people run into is, just this idea of finding a speaker and listening to it. I think it's better to finding a speaker and not listening to it. Mm-hmm. Too many people get caught up on this idea, or you hear, you'll see in the chat rooms, oh, what speaker should I buy? And I mean, the list ends up being 30, 40, 50 different speakers. And some are way out of price range for a lot of people, especially people who are just starting out. And so I think it's important to kind of go in with the idea of, listen, this is the budget that I'm working with. Is it realistic? All right. And if it is, yes, I know I'm going to get better things if I spend more, but is it going to help me to get started? Is this going to be what I need to get started? And I think it's important to find a set of full range cabs, 12s or 15s to start out with, that are going to be versatile enough for you to get through majority of the events that you're going to have when you're starting. But be realistic. If you're starting out and you have a pair of 12s or 15s, you're not going to go and do a 250, 300 person wedding, assuming that it can happen, or 200 or 350, students at a school dance.
Right.
It's just not the type of thing that you need. So you also have to realize when you're purchasing these, what are they made for? What's the SPL? What's the sound pressure level? What kind of sound are you getting out of that 1800 watts? Is it going to go more than 50 feet, right? Mm-hmm. So you're looking for quality as best you're going to get, right, within your budget, and that's going to give you the effect that you're going to have for your events. when I got started, I had a pair of passive Yorkville 15s. And they were like they were more entry level, and I beat those things to death for the longest time until I finally was able to go, okay, now it's time to upgrade to I think QSC was my next purchase.
Sure. Shani, what are your thoughts as far as kind of what kind of a minimum a person would need to get started with the speaker side of it?
My whole thing, again, like how we talked about having a separate mixer, if the beginning DJ is not going to have a separate mixer and you're going to be plugging your, I'm assuming probably controller and not CDJs in a mixer or anything like that, or Reigns or anything, is having like some powered speakers to be able to plug your speakers into your controller and having, clear, precise sound for what you want for that. Because again, like we talked about, are they going to have a mixer? No. Okay, so we have to make sure that whatever you're buying, you can plug right from speakers into your controller. And nowadays there's so many speakers to look at. Like it's kind of like controllers, like the head's going to explode. But there's so many different things that you personally, it's kind of like controllers too. Everybody has a different taste. Mm-hmm. And I know people are like, well, you got to get these are junk, these are this, these are that. But then are they going to tell you why they think they're junk? I mean, it's kind of like how somebody says, well, go for this and not for that, but they're not telling you why not to go for that.
Right.
So you definitely have to weigh those pros with the cons of what you need. Are you a person that maybe has back problems, that maybe needs some smaller stuff because you don't have techs and you don't have people helping you out? So maybe you have to go more towards something that's a lighter speaker for you. Do you need, okay, here's my thing, and I'm sure people are going to argue with me, and that's okay, and I don't care. But if you're just starting out, do you need a sub right now just to start out to have at your dispense?
Yep.
Let me tell you, if you're doing smaller events, no, you don't need a sub for your smaller events if that's what you're starting out doing. I'm not talking about you're doing these weddings for hundreds of people and things like that. Like Dan said, if you want to just get some 12s or some 15s, you can totally do parties like that. I still do parties with just tops, and I don't bring subs for certain events. And it's okay. Like the DJ police isn't going to come and put a big X with a circle and your face on it because you don't have subs at a party. Some people might do it, and then that's their opinion. But you don't need to then also fork out money right now to have one of those subs. That could be on your list of my wish list for when I'm, get the money in and I break even and now I'm making money. But you could get some incredible 12 or 15-inch speakers from some top companies, powered speakers that are going to be perfect for you. So my thing is look into that and look into how versatile you need those, do you need it more lightweight? Do you need this? Do you need that? Because of, things that are going on with you. But you definitely can get some great speakers like that. And then you can add that sub later.
Yeah, I think the sub area, I think, is a great advice with that. And I think that's one of the mistakes that younger or beginning DJs make, is that they go jump out and it's like, I need tops. I need the two tops. I need two subs, and off we go. And if you've got the money, yay. But
oh yeah,
if you
I'm not saying don't subs. I'm just like, everyone's like, well, Shady saying no subs. No, I never said that. But you don't, for just starting out, if we're trying to budget it out for you guys, it's not going to make or break what you're going to do right now.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you also, look at majority of what people are starting to really get into. Like the hot set of speakers for the past 3 or 4 years have been line arrays. And a lot of your line array, or column arrays, I should say, technically, like the EVs, the J Evox, the whole sets like that. They don't have 18-inch subs built into them. I have the Evolve 50s. It's a 12-inch sub in the bottom. So what do you think a 12-inch cab has? That's the thing. Like so you want to keep that piece in mind. But I wanted to come back to something David said in the chat room, which I think is golden right here when you're talking about it. Think about building in your backup plan. Decent power speakers with an input jack for your phone or iPad gives you a backup plan if your laptop or controller dies. In other words, you're not going to get this on all of them, but if you have at least a set of RCA inputs that are available, or the ability to go into that speaker, it just gives you an extra layer of protection should something go, you can at least buy time while you get your real backup is, or even if it's just a power blip on your controller and you have to somehow, troubleshoot, you got music going, you got something going in that speaker.
Agreed.
So,
and like you said, there's just so many of those that, Evie came out with them, RCF has them, JBL, like so many of those type of speakers now are going out, that you have your choice of what is good for you if you just don't want to get like a little 12, not little, but 12-inch or 15-inch speakers, and you want to go that way of getting those type of speakers.
Just be aware that if you do go for that, those are in what I would say very rarely entry level, just because of the cost. But
Yes.
if you compare what it has in it, you could find a cabinet that's going to fit, not the quality, but the value that you need.
And we're moving beyond the Menard speakers and the Costco speakers. You go to Amazon right now and you search for DJ speakers. You're going to find a Behringer, a Rockville, Harbinger, and then any number of knockoff brands that are basically looking like the exact same cabinet with just a little bit of different nameplate of whatever the name is. Half the time, they don't even put a name on there. Alpha Sonic, what? There's a lot of speakers out there. And this is where you get to the point of, Robin put in the chat, what would you recommend for someone starting out for $500? Obviously, $500 with some of these off brands are going to get you 2 speakers and may get you to all the cables and everything for a lot less than that. It gets to the point of weighing out, am I doing one show now and again? If I'm doing, if I one show a month, if I just want to go and DJ for a friend's party and I may never do it again, that's going to give you one requirement. But if you're going to be like, okay, so I want to do this and I want to build this up to become something, and I wanted to throw this out there, and we talked about backup or having a plan, but I almost feel at times it would make more sense to take that $500 and go buy the best, especially if I'm doing smaller parties, the best individual speaker that I could afford. One speaker. Spend $500 buying the ELX 200 as an example, the 12-inch of that, because I can do a lot with that 12-inch. And then after I've made a little money, buy a second one. Then as I've made more money, then I buy the subwoofer to go with it and build that way, as opposed to going and buying 2, 12-inch Rockville speakers that are not designed to do a night in, night out, or on a regular basis type show flow. What are your thoughts on if a person would do something like that?
I mean, I'm not mad at it. I mean, if you're doing smaller events, one of those powerful speakers from one of those top brand companies can blow out any of the other speakers in a heartbeat and sound crystal clear and give you exactly what you want. So I'm definitely not mad at that. I'm the type of person where, okay, yeah, so do I put it on my left side? Do I put it on my right side? Which way am I going to angle it? Do I put it behind me? Do I put it up above behind me? So it's just, that'd be like my whole thinking of what I'm going to do. Do I put it on the table then? Also make it a monitor and make it a speaker. But I'm definitely not mad at that type of situation, because that is an incredible situation to be like, let me buy one top-notch 12-inch, 15-inch speaker and be able to do a 50-person party with it, because you can totally do a 50-person party with a speaker like that and then some. And then, but my whole thing is, if you have the events booked, do it, because then if you start have that money coming in, you'll be able to get that money to get that second one right away. So I'm definitely not mad at that situation. It's not my ideal thing to do, because I would rather have the 2 speakers and also figure out, okay, am I going to go on the lower end of the brand, or am I going to maybe get some 10s on the higher end or do something? Mm-hmm. But that is I wouldn't mind doing something like that if I was just starting out, to have a top-notch speaker.
See, I have a problem. I have a huge issue with it. Just from the standpoint of a look, of a feel, of a thought. When somebody walks into the room and they see what you're doing and they see one speaker, they don't know brands. Like the average person that walks into a wedding doesn't know brands. They know look. I get compliments on two things throughout my system. I get compliments on the look. I love when a venue owner who's never seen this speaker walks by and goes, "Oh, I was expecting something big." Like I was like there's this one venue, they insist on you using their speaker, and Shani's got it right behind her. And I said, when I walked in to meet with him, I was like, that's fine, that's yours. I don't know that system. So if something happens, are you going to be here to help me troubleshoot it?
You're gonna troubleshoot it.
Yeah. Like I can fix
If
everything
something
on
happens to that
mine.
base module, because if that base module goes out, you can't use the tower.
It's
Right.
Yeah.
So
And you don't know that. Like, you don't.
I have no clue. I've never touched the thing other than I think I've touched it, but that's about it. And he was like, no. And I was like, okay, do you mind if I bring mine in? And he's like, no. I said, trust me. I promise you it'll look good. I promise you everything will be fine. He said, okay, no problem. I'm going to trust you here. And when he walked by, because he was there for part of it, he just didn't stay the night. He looked and he goes, oh, I was not expecting that. And I said, wait till you hear him. And so that just kind of leads into that. What I would rather see somebody who's starting out do, if you don't have the money to buy 2 quality budget speakers, okay, I would rather you go to your local store and rent a set. And rent a set for a couple events, stockpiling that money, then buy the quality budget, and then, when you can step up more, and that quality budget becomes your backup. That's what I did. Like when I take it back. I shouldn't say that because mine wasn't quality budget. Mine was just budget. But when I bought it, it was I bought them as a backup, and it was like some stupid deal. They were like $250 a piece. And I just used them for backup. They went out, I think, maybe 5 times total. Like I used it. That was it. And then I started building a ceremony system, and they went bye-bye. But, looking for something like that, I think you're going to be better off from an appearance standpoint just to have that double set. Again, can you rock a 50-person event with one? Yeah, we know that. But the look, the appearance, the thought, the process that goes into that, I think would be better for you just to rent.
Because I would still be going, which side am I putting it on? Am I putting it above my head? Am I putting it to my left? Am I putting it to my right? Am I going to hold it? Like, what am I going to do?
Well, and that brings up a good point, because a lot of your 12-inch cabinets or your 15-inch cabinets, they don't have the 180 dispersion. So where are you going to be in the room? Now if you're kind of in just not the perfect setup, putting one speaker, somewhere in that room, people are not going to be able to hear or understand clear, not because of the speaker, but because of the dispersion and where they are relative to you. So I think that's what I said. I think that 2 just gives you that flexibility. I'd rather have 2 that I can turn way down than to have 1 that has to be cranked and somebody can't hear it.
Scenario number 3 on the speakers.
What'd you say?
I said scenario number 3 of what to do with the speakers now is, if you're just starting in the game and you have some incredible mentors that have been kind of like pushing you to do this, and you've been talking to about equipment, see if they have any speakers that they want to sell you. Because probably a lot of people who've been in the game probably have lots of gear that's sitting in there that they wouldn't mind getting rid of. Plus, who the person is. So are they really going to give you like a bad pair of speakers if you're personal, like good friends with them or this and that? I know I've sold my backup speakers to starting out DJs, and they were like so ecstatic. And they're like, these are in great condition, these are this, and and I'm like, you're getting them from a friend. Like, you're not getting them from, but you still can go on like the marketplaces and the Craigslist and stuff like that. But I would then put my feelers out to the DJ community that and say, hey, and I bet you're going to get some great deals on some incredible speakers. So if you don't want to get, whatever's within your budget, and you don't want to do the 1 speaker route, you can always do that route as well.
And I think that's a great idea. It's similar to buying a used car. It's always kind of cool to buy a used car from someone that may trust, but they know they were the first owner of the car. They know the history of the car. And you have an idea, okay, have they kept it up? Have they da-da-da-da-da? Buying the speakers are kind of like that, because if it's been bounced from 3 to 4 different people, you don't know if somebody along the line beat the snot out of it. But if you know who it is, buying used gear can be very helps to stretch your dollars, and it can the gear can work for a long time. I mean, I've sold some things that I had purchased, I used it like twice, and it just didn't. I just never needed it again, and it sat there for about 6 months, and it's like, I'm just going to get rid of it and let it find a home where someone can use it. So,
and you got cash in your pocket.
Exactly. Except I'm horrible at this. When it comes to selling in a marketplace, I'm one of those people. It's like, okay, so here's the price, and they're like, oh, really? And it's like, okay, so I'm sorry, I'll take $50 off. And they're like, huh, what? And it's like, I'm so okay, I'll knock another $25 off. And before long, I'm paying them to take it.
No.
True story.
No.
I gotta stalk John's post more often.
Right?
Yeah. So let's talk when you're getting started about the importance or lack thereof of lighting. And then we can talk more specifics of certain things. But how important is lighting for when you're just you're doing these small parties here and there to get your kind of name out there, you're getting your feet wet, what have you?
I think it's important. It's one of those things where it almost gets asked, like when I'm talking with somebody who doesn't really know me, who doesn't really know what I do, and they get a price from me. Does that include like lighting? Like, and I'm like, you mean for like the dance floor? Yeah. Does it include lighting for uplighting? No. And so, it's one of those things where they get this idea almost like when they hear it, like that's a given. Like we have to have lighting, even though, you talk to a lot of DJs out there, and especially the higher end guys are going out, and it's like, this is our base price and we don't have any lighting. This is just us and speakers, and that's what we do. I agree. I think when you're starting out, you're in a different type of clientele who are expecting some sort of lighting, some sort of piece to the floor. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of different lighting that's out there, a lot of different options. I'm a fan of just wash colors. I'm not a fan of the dots. I'm not a fan of lasers and that kind of thing. And there's a lot of them that give you flexibility with sound active type of pieces, but also control for colors. Everything from like a Wash FX, it's the new one that just came out, the Hex. Granted, you're going to pay a couple $100, but it does a lot in just that one light. Chevet's 4-bar series, that's what I still use, like every wedding. That's my main lighting is a 4-bar wash, and so I recommend things like that because they're very versatile. You wouldn't necessarily have, there's a lot of different, even within those systems, there's different tiers. So you wouldn't have to go for like the real high tier, just get a good color, good wash colors. And it gives you the flexibility to then add to it with some effects lighting later on. Because washes are going to be your base for a lot of the things that you do when you get to a higher lighting type of things.
Yeah, agreed. I think, just like Dan said, for the basics, I think you definitely need lighting. You definitely can start out small. You don't need to go crazy with lighting at first because, like we said, you're doing these smaller events. You're not doing these crazy events. We're trying to fit it within your budget of like the smaller speakers, the smaller controller, everything. So I think just the basic type of lightings, but do your homework on it. Like Dan said, like the washes, don't do those dots and everything that we just said. Those are like the 1970s type of look and stuff like that. And photographers really love you if you get those anyways. Like
She's kidding.
No, I meant that very sarcastically. I meant that like really. So yeah, for those that don't know my humor, but yeah, definitely just get some washes, and you don't have to go crazy if you don't want to do the whole programming thing yet because your head, you can't wrap around it and you don't want to do it. You don't have to do it with any of this stuff yet. You can just go very basic and concentrate because you're just starting out, concentrating on the DJ and concentrating on the parties. Mm-hmm. Just have them plugged in, have them like if you need to turn them off, do it ghetto style and just, unplug. Oh, you need the my lights off for a group picture? Okay. Just like unplug, like it's okay. You're just starting out. Like all right, well, we're partying back on. turn the music on, walk over, plug the one in, walk over, plug the other one in, get back to DJing. You know, like you don't have to be like, oh, now I know to learn how to program, and now I need like one of those, you know, do I need to do DMX? Do I need to do, you know, do I need to do a program on my computer? Do I need this? You don't need to do that. Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. Like, let's get you going, let's get you events. And then how we're progressing with everything else, you'll progress with different lights, and you'll progress with a program, and you'll do this and you do that. So definitely I suggest exactly like, you know, what Dan said, get some washes, and like, let's just start out simple, but clean and pretty.
Mm-hmm. I think that's something else to kind of add. You know, you can make yourself appear to be much higher on the professional scale just by making things clean. Like, we haven't even talked about that, but when we're talking about your gear, you know, taking a few minutes to making sure that things look good from, you know, step out to where the guests are going to be, and taking a second to look at that. So, you know, little things like, you know, Velcro wraps for your stands to keep the cords tight, you know, little things like that you don't think of, but that make a huge difference just to your appearance. And again, this is starting out, but those are things that you can pick up at Walmart. You can pick a roll of Velcro straps up for like $5.
Yeah.
You know, it's well worth it, you know, because here's the other thing. You go on your forum and go, this is my first event. What do you guys think of my system? DJs are going to eat you alive for that one. You know, that's just the way it is.
You know what, but Jimmy likes it when I use orange extension cords and I leave them kind of coiled and piled behind. He loves it.
I thought everybody did that. Oh, mine are yellow though. I get like the bright yellow ones.
I like orange.
Okay.
Especially, you know, this time of the year, orange just makes me feel good.
Well, it is Halloween this week, so
yeah.
I mean,
it
could be for
seasonal.
Halloween.
And then I buy the nice green ones, so I can use a green one and the red ones from like Walmart for Christmas. It's so fabulous.
See, John goes above and beyond, but you don't really need to color code your extension cords, because that's spending money you don't need. Just buy.
I think I've actually got red ones and blue ones, and all sorts of cool colors.
Now you're talking about matching the lighting to the color theme of the wedding, because you're that kind of.
Yeah, that's an important thing. So Smart Guy here did not activate the licensed version of Zoom tonight.
Oops.
Oh wow! So are we gone in like 2 minutes?
4 minutes. We have 4 minutes left here. So, and I just went and turned it back on because we have a variety of licenses with our team, and I had put them on other people before starting tonight's show. So we're
gonna do a wrap up now.
We've got about 4 minutes to wrap to kind of wind things down. So the important thing to remember from tonight's show is that Shani's going to be trying to figure out where to put her speaker. Dan is going to be renting gear, and he's going to be going from rental shop to rental shop to find that perfect set of speakers. And I'm going to be wondering why the video shut off.
In my defense, I do have only one speaker up for my live streaming.
That is true, and I noticed you did.
I do. I only have the one speaker up, so I only have the one up.
Yeah, the OCD didn't.
So I'm good. I guess it's on that side.
Right. There we go.
So I'm good. Next person.
Well, I guess on that note, we gotta wrap it up. John, quickly, what do we got this week?
Tomorrow night, Ben Stowe is. We're gonna be kind of looking at speakers. Gonna dive into some history of speakers and looking at some of the older cabinets and such. Getting things set up where we're going to be going in a couple of weeks, looking at why is a $35 speaker, and why is a $300 speaker, and why is it, and really digging into that. Ben's gonna actually disassemble some things and show you that. And then our second show, we're going to talk about, is it time to, after you saw this last week's show where we had the big stack of CDs, is it time to start re-ripping some of those during this, the winter season, because you need them, better quality, what have you. And is that, what can you use for that? And Jay and Brian have been working and talking a lot about that. So we're going to dig into that tomorrow night in our second show.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. DJNTV.com/chill. John will drop the chat maybe before it closes on us. You can join the chat room, keep your conversations going. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Before we leave, I'm going to cut you off really quick. Before we leave, I am dropping a little secret for you guys, because it is 10 o'clock Chicago time, 11 o'clock East Coast, which means it's almost midnight. So I could actually drop a very huge secret. Bose is actually dropping some new speakers tomorrow.
Ooh.
So I'm letting you guys know the announcement will be tomorrow afternoon. It's less than a minute on here, so I just wanted to let you know, any Bose fans out there, we're dropping some cool speakers. That's all I'm saying. All right,
Excellent.
I'm done. Keep
Excellent.
talking.
Will that be on their Facebook page, or have they said
It'll
where they're
be
going?
all over the place. Yes.
Excellent. Well, we'll look forward to that.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Have yourself a wonderful night. We'll see you next time.
Okay. Good night, everybody.